Happy Friday, whatever that might mean to you in 2020. I'm Shane Connick. Sports are coming back soon. We keep talking about that on this show, but now it's starting to become a reality. MLB season is set to come back next week. The NBA season shortly thereafter. The NHL season shortly after that. Sports are almost back, but might they be back already? High school sports included? Welcome to the Shane Show. For more on the return of sports, we're going to welcome in Chris Carrino. He's the lead radio play-by-play broadcaster of the Brooklyn Nets on WFAN Sports Radio, along with being one of the main voices of the NFL on Compass Media Networks. Chris, thank you for coming on to the Shane Show. Always great to see you.
Always great to be on the Shane Show. Thanks for having me, Shane.
Of course. So, the Nets are in Orlando right now. NBA season's expected to start up pretty soon. In what ways, how are you going to be announcing the Nets on WFAN, considering that you won't actually be in Orlando with them?
Well, we're going to do with what all the other local NBA broadcasters are doing, and that is broadcasting the games off monitor from their local markets. And in most cases, as in ours, it's going to be from the arena. So we're going to actually go to Barclays Center. We're going to get set up in the same place we would set up for a home game. And the people in the arena are actually going to put the game on the Jumbotron. So we'll be watching, instead of watching the court, we'll be looking up a little bit at the Jumbotron and doing the games that way. It's something that I have a lot of experience doing. Mostly I would do them for a TV broadcast. I did the last 3 Olympics that way. I've done numerous games for NBA TV. They're international games. Normally I'm doing them for television, which is a little different because you're just reacting to what's on the screen, and that's what the people that are watching are reacting to. So in a way, I think it's a little easier for the TV broadcasters because, again, they're very focused on what's on the screen, and whatever's on the screen is what the people are seeing at home. For radio, you're a little bit more at the mercy of what's on the screen. And normally you're able to sort of look at various things around the arena that you won't be able to do. So it'll be a little bit of an adjustment. It'll probably take a couple of games to really do it well, but it's not the hardest thing in the world. Obviously, it's not brain surgery, but it's not ideal. But it's what we're trying to make do at this time. That's what everybody's doing.
Exactly, and also when you're actually there with the team, you're walking around. You're probably watching the team practice a bit, seeing the players, maybe interacting with them a little bit to an extent.
Yeah.
Now you're losing that whole part of it because you're in Brooklyn. They're not only, even if you're talking to them offline or via video chat or on the phone or whatever, it's not the same. So in what ways do you think that your preparation for games is going to change?
I look at a lot of that stuff as and I don't want to say bonus material to discount it at all. It's important, but it's not vital to bringing people the game. It makes the broadcast better if you're there and you could chat with coaches. You could chat with an assistant coach before the game. You may see a player in the hallway and chat up a little bit with him. You may see him, you're on the road in the lobby of the hotel and talk about something. You may have something you saw from the game before that you want to ask a particular guy about. You may wander into the locker room or see a guy before the game and ask him that. That's all sort of the cherry on the sundae. But, the nuts and bolts, we can do by just watching the game. And then, you just do a little more in terms of make sure you're reading their comments after the game. These guys are still going to be talking to the media. They're going to be set up on Zoom chats like this after the games. So we'll be able to still have some contact. We've already been doing it, as these weeks now leading up to the first game. where the players are in Orlando after practice, I'm still on Zoom meetings watching the guys and interacting with them and asking them questions. So, you learn to adjust. In many ways, sometimes these things are made easier. Uh, Instead of having to go out to practice, you're able to be in your kitchen, with your laptop open, and waiting around. And when the guy comes on the Zoom, you jump on, you have a question, you ask him a question, and then you go back to making a sandwich. So it's not. It's sometimes, in some ways, it's easier. Some ways it's a little more challenging. But like everything, things evolve, and I would expect that some of the things we do now during this will remain going forward.
And so before all this happened, March, April, when sports just shut down, there are no games going on, and it's uncertain about when they'll continue. So a lot of people with their jobs kind of were able to change a little. Everyone was impacted, but some people, maybe if you're a writer or something, you might be writing about different general sports stories or writing about other things. As a play-by-play broadcaster who's solely involved with covering sports games themselves, what were you doing to stay busy during that time?
I think you have to look at it, and this is something that goes beyond sports. And I think when you're young and you're taught that you have to work hard and hustle and do whatever you can, and somebody like you, Shane, who's still in college, and um, you want to try and be as productive as possible. Uh, for me, I tried to take some time to just decompress. I mean, I was literally going into a 2-week period that I was, I don't want to say stressing about, but was on my mind for months. We were just starting a West Coast trip, and those things can be a little daunting. And then I was going right from that. I was going to be home for a day, and then I was heading up to Albany, New York, to do the NCAA tournament for Westwood One. And that is one of my most challenging weeks of the year, because I get on Sunday night, I find out my 8 college teams. I'm not a college broadcaster during the season for the most part, so I'm only sort of watching it when I can. So I get 8 teams that I really don't know anything about. I have to do the 4 games in one day, and then 2 games on the second round. It's physically taxing. It's mentally draining. It's incredibly busy. So I was looking at that 2-week period when we were flying out to the West Coast, thinking, "All right, here I go. This adventure begins." And then 2 days later, I'm on a plane going back home, saying, "Wow, everything I thought I had to do the next 2 weeks, I now have nothing to do." The league announced that they weren't going to even consider what they were going to do next for 2 months. I run a foundation. We have a big gala every summer. So normally when I do have some downtime in the summer, it's spent planning this big gala, and the stresses that are involved with that. Suddenly I knew that wasn't going to happen. So I slept as well as I'd slept in years those couple of weeks after we shut down, because suddenly I just had this time. And I think so many people, when they think about, man, if I could just have a few weeks with no responsibility. And listen, I get, a lot of people were worried about their businesses, their jobs. But I think if you were healthy, you didn't have the virus, you were fortunate enough to be salaried and not and getting paid during that time, it was a really good time to decompress. And it's exactly what I did for weeks. And then you start to think about some projects that I never really had the time to do. Working on a book, working on a new website, doing some different things at my foundation. These are all things that I then got a chance to do, and spent a lot of time with my family, which is something that I don't always get to do a lot of during the season. They had me, I wasn't off running somewhere. It was nice, even though I do enjoy aspects of seeing the country and the things I know, and that the country is kind of small to me. not the worst thing, not getting on a plane for 4 months, and what that does to your body. So I think like anything, you have to make the most of opportunities. And I think this was an opportunity. Now, at the same time, I think a lot of people felt it's got to be some kind of a productivity contest. How can we do more? How can we uh, do something so that when this is over, I'll have set up a new side business or gotten a new job. And if you were able to achieve that, then that was fantastic for you. But what I didn't want to happen was to come out of this period of quarantine and say, "Man, I wish I had done this," or "I wish I hadn't been so busy," or you really wanted to be ready to go back to work, and I think I'm at that point right now.
That's great to hear. Chris, thank you for coming on to the Shane Show. Always great to hear from you.
All right, Shane, always proud of you, and keep up the great work.
Appreciate it. The NBA comeback is set to tip off in Orlando on July 30th, with Brooklyn reopening its season on July 31st. So the NBA season is coming back very soon. Major League Baseball is going to be opening up its season 6 days from now. But what about high school sports? You might think that they're just all completely done and canceled, right? 222 high school baseball teams across the state of New Jersey are currently competing in the Last Dance High School Baseball Tournament. This event is not sanctioned by the NJSIA, rather by Mike Murray and the United States Specialty Sports Association. So many things about this tournament are different, including the fact that teams are allowed to bat as many as 11 batters and make unlimited defensive substitutions to give everyone ample playing time. Many of these games are also being played in professional stadiums, including Skyland Stadium, home of the Canadian American League's Sussex County Miners. Pitchers have no pitch count limits or innings limits, and the umpire is calling balls and strikes from behind the pitcher's mound instead of behind the plate. Another interesting thing is that you might see signs for things like these appearing at high school games, something that is not normally seen. Also, upon arriving to the stadium, players, coaches, and umpires are required to have their temperatures taken, and if they have a temperature of 100.4 degrees or higher, they are sent home, according to NJ.com. Fans are permitted at these games and are scattered throughout the stadium, wearing masks and following social distancing measures. But nonetheless, the Last Dance tournament has given seniors in high school a chance to take the diamond with their high school team one final time. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of The Shane Show. See you next time. Catch you on the flip side.